Okay, we are on our last video for this brief sentence in the Scrum Guide. I know it's been 3 videos, but it is an important sentence. And we've talked so far about what an iterative and incremental approach is not. Then we talked about what it is. Now let's talk about how that helps optimize predictability and control risk. So optimize predictability. How does Scrum do that? And how does this iterative and incremental approach do that? It does so by creating a pull system, which is contrasted with a push system. And a pull system means that we only pull in work into our system when we are ready for that. So how does that work in Scrum? We work in sprints, right? So each and every sprint, at the beginning we have sprint planning, and that is when we choose which work to pull in and which work not to pull in. And we do that by our sprint goal, right? We have a sprint goal and we say, hey, we are committing to this goal to achieve this goal as a team. So let's figure out what work we have to pull in from our product backlog, our refined product backlog items, so that we can achieve this sprint goal. And by doing that, we are saying no to everything else that does not relate to this sprint goal. Contrast that with a push system where work is just pushed on us and pushed on us and pushed on us, whether or not we are ready. And there are a few issues with that. Number one, it increases our work in progress, which will most likely increase our cycle time of everything in our system, which basically is how long it takes for one item to go from started to completed, which will most likely, this increase in work in progress will most likely slow down our throughput, right? How many items we can finish in each and every sprint. So optimizing predictability, Sprint does that by creating a pull system, by helping us focus with this sprint goal so that we can deliver an increment each and every sprint, and so that we are limiting our work in progress so that we can really be predictable and really ship or deliver an increment each and every sprint. So that's the difference between a pull system and a push system. These are a lot of Kanban terms here, and Kanban also even can greater optimize predictability for a Scrum team. But even within Scrum, each sprint creates a pull system for the team. Now, let's talk about controlling risk. How does Scrum help control risk? Well, let's look at this fancy chart right here. Remember, waterfall is this, okay, where you're going to design and then code and then test and then ship. And we're only going to do the next thing when we finish the phase before that. Counter that with Scrum, where we're right. Remember, we are creating an increment each and every sprint. That should be green, but actually let's make them green, right? Boom, boom, boom. We're making an increment each and every sprint. And let's talk about how that helps us deal with risk. Okay, so in waterfall, let's imagine we think that customers want this, right? We think, oh, customers will really like this, right? And we have that hypothesis, that assumption, and then we plan everything out, and let's say it takes 12 months. And so here is our risk if we're working on something that way. This whole time that we are working on something, we are at risk because we're never validating this assumption. We are never seeing if customers truly want this. Instead, we're building it, banking that our assumption is right when we have the least amount of information, and then hoping that customers truly want it. And that is a massive risk, right? Because customers could reject it. But in Scrum, it reduces risk by its iterative and incremental approach. Remember, so each and every sprint we're producing something. So let's say at the beginning we produced this thing for them, and we realize, actually let's make that a little smaller. We make this box, and then okay, we got some feedback. Then we realize, okay, they don't want a box, they want a triangle. And then we get a little more feedback, and for our next sprint, we make it green now. Okay, and then in our next sprint, we make it green and we add a line, and next sprint, then we add another line, and then in our next sprint, we add a bow, and then in our final one, we add more bows. Okay, so bows, 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 and bows. And this is what they want. It kind of looks like a drone, right? Little propellers flying all over. And this is how Scrum helps us reduce risk, because we started with this assumption and then we started building it, but then we got feedback say, oh, this is actually what they want. They don't even want this. And so we reduced that risk greatly by not banking on that assumption for 12 months, but instead getting feedback each and every sprint so that we could reduce that risk and actually deliver what customers really want. So we have happy customers, happy workers, and hopefully some revenue for our company as well. So that is how Scrum helps reduce risk and optimize predictability by creating a pull system, which is one way, which happens because of limiting work in progress by only focusing on the sprint goal. So I hope that helps you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.